do you have any knowledge to make the microphone work? Bring it closer. Untangle this. Okay. Bring it closer. All right, that's all right. Jayatam Surato Pangor Mamamanda Matergati Matsarvasva Padambojo Radha Madana Mohano Dibyad Vrindaranya Kalpajumada Srimad Ratnagara Singha Srimad Radha Shilagovinda Devo Pastalabi Savyamano Smarami Shriman Rasa Rasarambi Bamsi Bhatta Tatastita Karshan Venu Svinar Gopir Gopinatha Sriyestuna Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavaneshvari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. I'm not going to speak any louder than this, so if you can't hear me, you're going to have to come closer. Panchakalpatarubhyas cha Kripasindubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Brinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Tatarhatasta Naradeva Kanya Kujena Dristva Harim Artha Bandhun Utaya Sadyo Jagahupa Harsha Bridanu Raga Prativai Phalokai. There in the house of the demon, all the princesses kidnapped by Narakasura at once became alert upon seeing the Lord, the friend of the distressed. They looked upon him with great eagerness, joy, and shyness, and offered to be his wives. So Uddhava is describing to us, beginning yesterday in verse 6, the demon Bhaumasura or Narakasura, and here we are in today's verse and tomorrow's verse, hearing how he kidnapped 16,100 princesses. Here it is of kings. If you look at Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's 10th canto commentary, he gives us the insight that he also kidnapped daughters of demigods, sages, and also demons. So quite an ambitious, lusty demon he was. So 5,000 or so years ago, unlike today, the Vedic system was very much intact. Vedic system is based on understanding that the goal of life is self-realization, not unrestricted sense gratification, of which attraction between the male and female sex life in every species of life is the binding and more or less basic principle of materialistic life. So spiritual life is exactly the opposite, which ultimately culminates in serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the supreme enjoyer and the ultimate husband and proprietor of every living entity. This pastime of the Lord marrying 16,100 plus 8, his 8 principal queens, 108 wives, is always misconstrued by the gross materialists, even though they might be doctorately decorated with some type of PhD, give some commentary, or they purport themselves to be religious in a particular religion. Your Krishna is just very lusty, he's marrying 16,000. They don't understand that Krishna is the only husband, no one else's husband, because everyone else is, as the separated Jivanamsa, separated part and parcel of Krishna, properly to be situated, expanded through Krishna's internal potency, which is non-different than his own self, are meant to be servitors of the ultimate pastime of Krishna in his enjoyment of his internal pleasure-giving potency. So this pastime of Krishna marrying 16,100 so to speak, fallen girls, because the number one principle for the woman to cultivate is chastity. Because if attraction to the opposite sex is not regulated and controlled, then it is the breeding ground of all miseries in the material world. Where is it described? 5th canto, Lord Rishabhadev's teachings, might even be in this spiritual yoga book that we're distributing, that sex life, licit or illicit, volumes, bara dukkha va, volumes of material miseries ensue. So, these princesses kidnapped by this demon, according to Vedic system, a girl should never be unprotected, and unmarried girls are very, very carefully protected by their fathers, elder brothers, and their marriages are arranged very, very sagaciously and carefully. So if a girl has any union or association with a man before her marriage, she's considered to be fallen and unchaste. So this is quite extraordinary pastime also, and this also shows the transcendental position of Krishna, and that he's not like an ordinary man who, no, I can't refuse this girl because she's been touched by another. You can read in the 5th canto, Lakshmi Devi saying that Krishna is the only husband, and any woman who accepts anyone but Krishna as the supreme husband is simply fool number one. So Krishna supersedes this custom. That could be another criticism, that Krishna is marrying fallen girls, but it's actually quite glorious, because this shows that both from the devotee's side, in the guise of being 16,100 quote-unquote fallen princesses, that they understood that Krishna is the only husband. But according to this pastime which took place on this planet, no one would marry them. Okay, they're rescued from the dungeon of this Narakasura, and they would go back to their fathers, but their marriages would not be able to be arranged. So, of course, this is in the Krishna book, Deliverance of the Demon Bhaumasura, which is the 59th chapter of the 10th canto. Krishna entered the palace of Bhaumasura, which was equipped with all kinds of opulences. In the palace of Bhaumasura, Lord Krishna saw 16,100 young princesses who had been kidnapped and held captive there. When the princesses saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, enter the palace, they immediately became captivated by the beauty of the Lord and prayed for his causeless mercy. So this is described here by Uddhava. Uttaya at once got up, that they at once became alert upon seeing the Lord, the friend of the distressed. So the darshan of Krishna always is on the highest stage of alertness, awareness, and awakeness. Maharaj Parikshit, his very name, the examiner, because of the most beloved, priya, dear darshan of the Lord that he received. He was always examining everyone to see what was their connection with Krishna, always seeking out Krishna. And this transcendental alertness was exhibited par excellence by the six Goswamis of Vrindavan. Hey Radhe Brajadevike Chalalite, Hey Nanda Suno Kuta, Goshanta Viti Sarvato Brajapare, Keder Mahavivalo, Vande Rupa Sanatano Ragoyago, Shri Jiva Gopalako. They were very, very alert, seeking out Radha and Krishna and their beloved associates everywhere throughout the sacred pastime place of Sri Vrindavan. In the mood of separation, transcendental separation is the same as sambhoga union and reunion on the transcendental platform. And this is the mood recommended to us and practically and personally demonstrated and participated in with full absorption by the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Nayanam Galada Shudaraya, Vadanam Gadgada Rudaya Gira, Pulakara Nichitam Vapukada, Tavanama Grahane Bhavishyati. They looked upon him with eagerness, anuragha, joy and shyness, and offered to be his wives. They prayed for his causeless mercy. Within their minds, they decided to accept Lord Krishna as their husband without hesitation. So this is not to be confused with a pretty young girl seeing a handsome young boy and deciding that this boy must be my husband. This is the perfect stage of self-realization which is being understood here. That Krishna is the only shelter. Their attraction and firm decision to accept Krishna as their husband is the highest stage of renunciation and acceptance. And ultimately, this is the goal of the renounced order of life, to come to this stage of understanding Krishna's position as one supreme enjoyer, supreme proprietor, supreme friend, everything. In the material world, to be used by another is most unpalatable, slave mentality. But to be used, nivitamatir, what is that? You become an instrument in the fight. Yes, I have regained my memory according to your mercy, because of your mercy. My illusion is now gone. I am prepared to act according to your instructions. It's a beautiful painting of Arjuna in his awakened state of self-realization, ready to go on the chariot with Krishna, who's blissful in all situations. Even during the Kurukshetra war, Krishna is blissful and happy. Arjuna, before the war, he's morose. Krishna, in any situation, whether we see he's killing the fierce demon Putana, and Mother Yashoda and the other residents of Vrindavan, they see that he's joyfully and fearlessly playing on the dead body of the Putana witch. Or Kaliya, the Kaliya serpent, 2 hours fighting in the coils of the Kaliya in the poisoned waters of the Yamuna. The residents of Vrindavan are practically on the point of death in great anxiety. But Krishna is simply having a good time. This is Anandamaya Vyasat, simply pleasure. Within their minds, Yasivatmika Budhir Eke Ha Kurunandana, in the minds and intelligence of those who are, what is it? Their aim is one, resolute, Eka, Ekanath, Ekalavya, Eka, one-minded, one-pointed, just this. Not Bogaishvarya Prashaknanam Chayat Patat in the minds of those who are too attached to material sense enjoyment and sense gratification and bewildered by such things, the resolute eka, determination of single-pointed, one-minded devotional service does not take place. Within their minds, they decided to accept Lord Krishna as their husband without hesitation. Can somebody give me the 5th canto? Each one of them prayed to Providence that Krishna might become her husband. Haphazard and whimsically? No. Sincerely and seriously. Right there. They offered their hearts to the lotus feet of Krishna with an unalloyed devotional attitude. Ashlishlava paratam panashnumam adarshanan mamahatam karotuva yutatita vavadirato lampato mat prana natastu saeva naparaha. Krishna is the Lord of my life, whether he handles me roughly as an embrace or makes me brokenhearted by not being present before me. He can corrode my mind and body by separating himself from me for such a long time. If his putting me into distress is his happiness, then that distress is the greatest of my happiness. With an unalloyed devotional attitude, as the supersoul in everyone's heart, Krishna can understand their uncontaminated desire. Anyabilasita sunyam jnana karmadi anavritam. Sunyam, all material desires, zero. Kind of a catchphrase going on. You know, the medical workers, we're last year's heroes and we're this year's zeros. But in Krishna consciousness, you make your material desires zero and you actually become hero. First make material desires zero, then think of becoming hero. Unalloyed devotional attitude. How do you get your siddha deha? Your perfected spiritual body? It's in your hand right now by cultivating your bhava deha, your mood of unalloyed devotional service. In Melbourne, Australia, Srila Prabhupada, we've been committing sinful activities for so many lives. How many lives do we have to perform pious activities to count the rest? You're not reading my Bhagavad Gita? In 1 minute, you surrender unto me, and I will take away all your sinful reactions. Immediately. That is in your hand. My dear Lord, I've been in this material world for such a long time. I'm now sincerely and seriously surrendering unto you. Please accept me. Krishna is prepared to accept. Just like Prabhupada giving class on this, Krishna accepting the 16,100 princes. Krishna knew their desire and he said, come on, let's go. You'll hear tomorrow how Krishna provided, not that, Prabhupada's joking, so they have to rate 16,099 days. How many years is that? Before they can have a night with their husband. But Krishna expanded himself into 16,100 plus 8, 108 forms to be their husband. And there's the wonderful chapter towards the end of the 10th canto where Narada Muni is visiting all the 16,000 palaces, one after the other, and seeing Krishna differently manifested, engaged in different activities with his wives. So there's plenty of Krishna to go around for the unlimited happiness of every living entity, and that transports down the line to the myth of scarcity, the myth of overpopulation. We have to depopulate, whatever the nonsense demons think. Krishna, he is the Bhutanath. He is supplying the living entities for every living entity. There's no scarcity. Only scarcity is the scarcity of Krishna consciousness and dharmasya glani, an overabundance of demons and demoniac conceptions and demoniac activities, to which Krishna comes periodically to destroy. As the supersoul in everyone's heart, Krishna can understand their uncontaminated desire, and he agreed to accept them as his wives. Thus, he arranged for suitable garments and ornaments for them, and each of them, seated on a palanquin, were dispatched to Dwarka city. Such a profound concept. Krishna is the only husband that Prabhupada described it in the table of contents as a subheading. Krishna is the only husband. Lakshmi Devi's prayers. Lakshmi Devi worships the Lord in his most merciful form as Kamadev, fully absorbed in devotional service. She chants the following mantras. So we'll look at some, can't read them all. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Lord Rishikesh, the controller of all my senses and the origin of everything. As the supreme master of all bodily, mental, and intellectual activities, he is the only enjoyer of their results. So we put our best foot forward, not that we do something whimsically and offer it in the service of the Lord. That is not in the devotional line. With full attention, concentration. It's the business of the spiritual master to chastise the disciple to get the best out of him. Not that, we remain with the 4 defects of the conditioned soul, of which the cheating propensity, especially in Kali Yuga, is most pronounced. The spiritual master cannot be cheated. The only ingredient necessary is sincerity. How do you become sincere? By being sincere. He supplies all the necessities of life, which are his energy and thus non-different from him, and he is the cause of everyone's bodily and mental prowess, which is also non-different from him. Indeed, he is the husband and provider of necessities for all living entities. The purpose of all the Vedas is to worship him. Therefore, let us all offer him our respectful obeisances. May he always be favorable towards us in this life and the next. Prabhupada says here, all mantras, of course, are meant for this life and the next life, as Krishna himself confirms. Satatam kirtayanto mam, always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, the great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. A devotee who both in this life and the next chants the Maha Mantra is called Nitya Yukta Upasaka. My dear Lord, you are certainly the fully independent master of all the senses. Therefore, all women who worship you by strictly observing vows because they wish to acquire a husband to satisfy their senses are surely under illusion. They do not know that such a husband cannot actually give protection to them or their children. And Shukadeva Goswami, in the beginning of his meeting with with Maharaj Parikshit, in the beginning of the second canto, they think they're protected by their society, their friends, their family, their bank balance, their skyscraper building, their influence. You just see these filthy rich mega billion and trillionaires plotting so many schemes to increase their wealth, just like the demons are described in the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So much is wealth mine now, and it will increase more and more according to my schemes. But at any minute, death will take them away, and all that wealth is left behind. And as described in the 5th canto, the description of the hellish planets, all that money acquired is the money, their passage money to buy their ticket to hell. That's what the money goes for. Whereas devotees, they use their acquired wealth directly in the service of Krishna. And by that action, they go back home, back to Godhead. They do not know that such a husband cannot actually give protection to them or their children, nor can he protect their wealth or duration of life, for he himself is dependent on time, fruit of results, and the modes of nature, which are all subordinate to you. Factually, the only real husband of all women is Krishna, the supreme husband. Because the gopis, and also here these princesses, were liberated souls, they understood this fact. Therefore, they rejected their material husbands and accepted Krishna as their real husband. Krishna is the real husband not only of the gopis, but of every living entity. Everyone should perfectly understand that Krishna is the real husband of all living entities who are described in the Bhagavad Gita as Prakriti, female, not Purusha, male. Therefore, any woman who seeks a material husband for her protection, or any man who desires to become the husband of a woman, is under illusion. To become a husband means to maintain a wife and children nicely by supplying wealth and security. However, a material husband cannot possibly do this, for he is dependent on his karma. Ultimate protection is back home, back to Godhead, regaining eternality, knowledge, and bliss. Anything short of that is not protection. Guru nasishyat, pita nasishyat. Unless one can deliver one's dependent from impending birth and death, repetition of birth and death in the samsara chakra, one should not become a guru, a parent, a husband. Prabhupada says in that section of the 5th canto, if one cannot deliver from repeated birth and death, then all of those positions, to take those positions it is illegal. Prabhupada uses that word, illegal. Karmana daiva naturena. His circumstances are determined by his past fruitive activities. Therefore, if one proudly thinks he can protect his wife, he is under illusion. Krishna is the only husband. Prabhupada instructed his grihastha devotees, the men, these women are the Krishna's gopis, or they're Krishna's wives, they're his servants. You should, actually it was Gorkishore Das Babaji who said one young husband saying it's very good, and you should worship your wife, take her prasad, seeing her as the dasi of Krishna. Krishna is the only husband, and therefore the relationship between a husband and wife in this material world cannot be absolute. Because we have a desire to marry, Krishna mercifully allows the so-called husband to possess a wife, and the wife to possess a so-called husband for mutual satisfaction. In the Isha Upanishad it is said, Tena tyaktena bunjata. The Lord provides everyone with his quota. Actually, however, every living entity is prakriti or female, and Krishna is the only husband. Ekala Ishvar Krishna Ar Sarvabhritya Yara Yache Nache Se Tachi Kare Nitya. Krishna is the original master or husband of everyone, all other living entities. Have taken the form of so-called husbands or wives, or dancing according to his desire. A so-called husband may unite with his wife for sense gratification, but his senses are conducted by Rishikesh, the master of the senses, who is therefore the actual husband. He who alone who is never afraid, but who on the contrary gives complete shelter to all fearful persons, can actually become a husband and protector. You see in the contemplation of goddess Rama, the goddess of fortune, who appeared from the churning of the milk ocean in the 8th canto, she's examining everybody, seeing their particular outstanding qualities, but immediately this is transcendental fault finding. Actually, let me see the 8th canto. It's very nice to read that. Shelter to all fearful persons can actually become a husband and protector. Therefore, my Lord, you are the only husband, and no one else can claim that position. Then there appeared the goddess of fortune, Rama, who was absolutely dedicated to being enjoyed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. She appeared like electricity, surpassing the lightning that might illuminate a marble mountain. Because of her exquisite beauty, her bodily features, her youth, her complexion, and her glories, everyone, including the demigods, the demons, and the human beings, desired her. Such is the material world. They were attracted because she is the source of all opulences. The goddess of fortune, however, never remains alone. She is the property of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is enjoyable only by him. If one wants the favor of the goddess of fortune, because she is by nature Bhagavat Para, one must keep her with Narayan. The devotees always engaged in the service of Narayan, Narayana Parayana, can easily achieve the favor of the goddess of fortune, without a doubt. But materialists who try to get the favor of the goddess of fortune only to possess her for personal enjoyment are frustrated. Theirs is not a good policy. The celebrated demon Ravana, for example, wanted to deprive Ramachandra of Lakshmi Sita and thus be victorious, but the result was just the opposite. Sita, of course, was taken by force by Lord Ramachandra, and Ravana and his entire material empire were vanquished. So that's the time of death for these little demons. Your bank balance, your skyscraper building, all finished. Then one has to believe, as sure as death. Prabhupada told the professors of religion in his garden in Los Angeles during his visit in June of 1975. One should understand that the goddess of fortune is the exclusive property of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One cannot achieve the mercy of the goddess of fortune unless one prays both to her and to the Supreme Enjoyer, the Personality of Godhead. The goddess of fortune is the most chaste. And what is the meaning of chastity ultimately? And this is not just for women, but for everyone. For she does not know anyone but the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sati, supremely chaste because she never diverts her attention from the Supreme Personality of Godhead to anyone else. While walking among the Gandharvas, Yakshas, Asuras, Siddhas, Charanas, and the denizens of heaven, Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of fortune, was scrutinizingly examining them. But she could not find anyone naturally endowed with all good qualities. None of them were devoid of faults, and therefore she could not take shelter of any of them. She thought in this way: someone who has undergone great austerity has not yet conquered anger. Someone possesses knowledge, but he has not conquered material desires. I think there's the How I Came to Krishna Consciousness story of Sura Prabhu in the BBT in Los Angeles, and that, he was intrigued by, his college professors. They seemed to have so much knowledge. They're speaking. But then there was some occasion that he went to some party where they were all the professors and they were all smoking, drinking, and womanizing and using foul language, and he was just lost all his faith. Possessed knowledge but not conquered material desires. And you could see, they're not doing this for knowledge. They're doing this for money, reputation. Someone is a very great personality, but he cannot conquer lusty desires. That is real heroism. My dear Father, there are no enemies except one's uncontrolled mind. Even a great personality depends on something else. How then can he be the supreme controller? Here is an attempt to find the supreme controller, or Ishvara. By scrutinizing analysis, we find that everyone is controlled by something else. No one, therefore, can be the true controller but the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Ishvara, Parama, Krishna, Satchidananda, Vigraha, Sarva, Karana. Krishna is never controlled by anyone, for he is the controller of everyone. Sarva, Karana, Karana, the cause of all causes. Someone may possess full knowledge of religion, but still not be kind to all living entities. Father Cardinal Delnu, he was known as a progressive Catholic priest, getting the atheist and agnostic young French Parisian people of the time on board. He was known as progressive, but he couldn't even understand the point that killing animals is bad. The children, the women, the food, the meat. And devotees' realization, Prabhupada, speaking to these high-ranking people, he showed us that these people are nothing compared to the pure devotee, to compare to a self-realized soul, to compare to the actual Vedic knowledge, that they're actually misleaders. in someone, whether human or demigod, there may be renunciation, but that is not the cause of liberation. Someone may possess power and yet be unable to check the power of eternal time. Look how intelligent she is. Someone else may have renounced attachment to the material world, yet he cannot compare it to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, no one is completely freed from the influence of the material modes of nature. Yes. We actually see there are many Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, and religionists of other cults who adhere to their religious principles very nicely, but are not equal to all living entities. Indeed, although they profess to be very religious, they kill poor animals. Such religion has no meaning. Chitraketu and glorifying Anantadev. Such religion is simply arouses your anger. How can such a religion that causes such suffering to other living entities bring you any happiness? Chitraketu is praying. The sign of a devotee is he is friend to everyone. Suridam Sarva Bhutanam. A devotee will never allow a poor animal to be killed in the name of religion. Someone may have longevity, but not have auspiciousness or good behavior. Someone may have both auspiciousness and good behavior, but the duration of his life is not fixed. Although such demigods as Lord, this is very important. You accept as your husband one who will never die. Everyone has to die in the material world, so therefore no one is a fit. My life's companion, my soulmate. Although such demigods as Lord Shiva, Srila Prabhupada, Yoko Ono, and John Lennon, please bless us that we can live together like this forever. And Prabhupada just scoffed at the idea. That is not my position. Krishna has given you this life to achieve self-realization. This position of husband and wife is simply ephemeral. They were pretty disappointed to hear that. Although such demigods as Lord Shiva have eternal life, they have inauspicious habits like living in crematoriums. And even if others are well qualified in all respects, they are not devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this way, after full deliberation, the goddess of fortune accepted Mukunda as her husband because although he is independent and not in want of her, he possesses all transcendental qualities and mystic powers and is therefore the most desirable. We see in talks between Krishna and Rukmini that Rukmini was shocked to hear how Krishna could renounce her, and she just was so distressed and disturbed. But Krishna, understanding her unalloyed love, such is their relationship. Therefore, persons learned in all Vedic literatures accept only your lordship as everyone's master, and they think no one else a better husband and protector than you. This is a very important section everyone can read periodically throughout their entire life to keep your intelligence sharp and clear. Instead of deceiving themselves and others by pretending to be all-powerful, all political leaders, husbands and guardians, should spread the Krishna consciousness movement so that everyone can learn how to surrender to Krishna, the Supreme Husband. My dear Lord, you automatically fulfill all the desires of a woman who worships your lotus feet in pure love. However, if a woman worships your lotus feet for a particular purpose, you also quickly fulfill her desires. But in the end, she becomes brokenhearted and laments. There's that painting of someone's approaching goddess Uma, and they get and she delivers a wife, and But behind that is like a Grim Reaper skeleton. One was knowledge, Goddess Saraswati, get your diploma. What's the third one? Oh, Goddess Lakshmi, wealth, money, big money bag. It was one of the paintings in the original Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, one need not worship your lotus feet for some material benefit. All right, Hare Krishna. Tatarvitastan Naradeva Kanya Kujena Dristva Harim Artha Bandhum Utaya Sadyo Jagahu Praharsha Vidanu Raga Pratitava Lokai. There in the house of the demon, all the princesses kidnapped by Narkasura at once became alert upon seeing the Lord, the friend of the distressed. They looked upon him with eagerness, joy, and shyness, and offered to be his wives. Hare Krishna. Text 8, next class. Shri Radha Govinda Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.